All right, before we jump into this, I'm gonna need to ask a favor. You saw the intro, you know this beat is cold, so just hit the button. You know what button? And some of you have been here before as well, so just hit the button. Hit the button. Hit the button. What's up, gang, and welcome back to another episode of Inspired By, a series where we look at the musical trends, past and present, to understand the techniques used so that you guys can make better music. My name's Will, and I make a plethora of music under the moniker Hush Child. I'm not going to waste any time because I can't stop listening to today's beat. I hope you guys enjoy the tutorial today. If you do, you know what to do. And I hope to hear some of the beats that you make off the back of this as well. If you'd like to share them, find the Discord in the description below. The beat battles are starting up again this week, and as always, we're sponsored by DistroKid, and I'll have a few more words on DistroKid later on. You want to make sure that within these chilled garage beats, because there's so much going on, that all the sounds just gel together perfectly. You want everything in keeping. So what I'd advise is you get all of your drum sounds completely in keeping first, and then very carefully choose the instruments that are going to accompany your beat super carefully as well. That being said, I think it's really important to show you guys the process of making this beat, and I've actually made this one over 2 projects. And that's because the first time round, I really just messed this up. It was a slightly different groove with a slightly different sound selection, but I think it's important to show you guys where I went wrong. This is what we had originally. There's just a little bit too much busyness. There's definitely something there that can work, but it just wasn't happening this time around. But let me start with this project, because this is where I made the piano sound, the Rhodes sound, and what I've named the dial-up sound as well. And then once I'd made that, I was happy with it. I exported it and put it into a new project just so we had a clean canvas to work from. So I took the inspiration for the piano from MJ Cole's Liquid, and I figured the best sound for representing kind of a live piano would be the claustrophobic piano from Piano Book. And I've done a whole video on that free VST before. I just think it's a beautiful sound, and it's extremely malleable as well. So for this song, we're using the key of B flat minor. And don't forget, if you're using Ableton 11, you can hit that scale button there, and it displays the notes that you want to use within that scale. So for this, I just played in block chords, as you can see there. And I've used my own rack, which you guys can download for free. It's in the description. I've also made a video on this rack, which is also in the annotation above. And this just allows me to kind of roll those block chords, or, you know, make a strummed chord. So I've just automated the speed and the sustain of these chords. So now we're going to have a rolled chord. And that just makes it a lot nicer to the ear than just quantized block chords. And then it was just a little bit of EQ. Now I do process this a little bit more in the project later, which we'll come back to. Now I'm backing up that chord pattern with the Rhodes here. And with this, I just kind of broke up the notes of that chord and played them in a higher register, more arpeggioed than the original. And right now the notes are a little bit sharp, so I just EQ'd them a little bit. I added a phaser for some movement. And then the Haas effects, so they're a lot wider. And then I ran that instrument through Portal. And what Portal allows you to do is stretch and skew and manipulate an instrument. And I recorded that on the spot and then chose all of the parts that I liked. So I like that as kind of a texture or some ear candy. And then I figured I would use Contact's Exhale, which has these lovely choir samples that you can use. And I just wanted to create kind of a bit of a drone. So like I said, I bounced all of these in place and I put it into the project that you saw at the beginning of the video. So to touch upon the sounds that you heard with the piano, it was just a little bit more EQing once I had some new instruments in there. I used the Transient Master from Native Instruments to just take down some of the real attack from the pedals, and Fresh Air to bring out some of the brightness of the piano. And then I sidechained this instrument with the kick. So it just has a little bit more character this time round. You can really hear the room sound because of fresh air. And that's a free plugin as well, I believe. Once I had that in, I actually wanted to add the claustrophobic piano. Again, I just EQ'd this note. I didn't do too much else to it. And then that just kind of plays a more rhythmic part as the song begins to build. The Rhodes pattern, like I said, just EQing it and adding that sidechain there. Here's our drone from Exhale before. I'm just EQing out that 300 to 500 hertz region because that's where a lot of the body of my piano is going to be. So making sure that, you know, kind of from the Rhodes down, that all of my instruments are sitting in the higher register until we get to my bass, of course. Got this dial-up pattern, which I just bounced. You heard it before. Haven't done too much else to it. Now this is a new one. I thought, right, this tune needs more of a pulse as things start to get more exciting. So I added these like kind of bouncy notes, and that's just with Ableton's own electric piano organ preset. You can hear a bit of phase in there. And the auto pan just keeps that moving around your head a little bit, but nothing else is too different. EQ, transient master, just adding a little bit of attack. So now it gets more exciting. We'll come back to the drums at the very end, which is going to be the key to kind of giving it that garage sound, that garage swing. The first bass that you hear in this tune is kind of a nod to that pulse that I spoke about. And I've used a similar serum patch for both instruments, but I've just EQ'd them differently. So this is the first bass that you hear, and I've swept all of the low end out of it. It's almost like something that we would hear in like an acid or trance song. A little bit of glue compression, OTT to bring out the higher harmonics, EQA as I mentioned. I've turned the LFO off from the previous bass. And then we've got the DJ M filter, which is free from Exfa, just kind of making it darker or brighter. With the sidechain compression there, and I've just put it in mono. With the bass at the top, this is our classic kind of UKG bass or dubstep bass even. Just a sine wave on oscillator A and B with -2 octaves here, -1 octaves on the right. And then this is our LFO shape. And that's going to give it the kind of pulsing sound that we hear. But everything on the left is pretty much standard. This is how it looks when you've got your initial preset. And these are the changes I've made. So I've just taken the attack off a little bit. In terms of effect, just a little bit of EQ to bring a little high end to the mix, which helps obviously pull it out of your speakers. Some reverb, just subtly, and then some distortion as well, because you do want to distort some of the harmonics, and that's how you guys are able to hear it, hopefully through your laptop speakers. If not, do grab some headphones now. And then I just used Ableton's free LFO tool, which I think comes from Max for Live, or it comes with Ableton 11. And that's just helping me move the frequencies here, keeping that fundamental note here. Later on in the song, I just add a sub, and I doubt most of you are going to hear this unless you have headphones on. And I just took out that kind of fundamental. And then I used R-bass to again pull out those harmonics. I absolutely rave about R-bass. And you can see here that between the kind of pulsing bass that we hear and then the sub bass, they kind of take it in turns. And therefore I'm avoiding having them clash for long periods of time. And that's where you'll start to find you get some really murky, muddy tracks. So you can see that they kind of take it in turns anytime one of them plays. Once I got to this part of the track, I just couldn't stop listening to it on loop. I really enjoy it. I might even release it. Let me know what you guys think, if you think it's maybe something I should finish up and get out there into the world so you guys can enjoy it. Whilst we're talking about tracks that you guys can enjoy, let's have a quick word from our sponsor. Yes, whilst we're talking about music, I'm happy to announce that this video is sponsored by DistroKid. And DistroKid make it so easy for you guys to release your music on all the streaming platforms. They've definitely helped me out a ton over the years. I've just released some music with my friend Dan Harmon from Distro, and you can check that out below. One of the great tools that Dan and I used in the release of that song is a thing called Teams. And what Teams allows you to do is create revenue splits amongst your collaborators when this song goes live. Your collaborators creators will need a DistroKid account too, but when you invite them to the platform, they get 50% off. DistroKid have an assortment of other tools that I've mentioned in previous videos, like the Visi function and the Spotlight tool. They also have a bunch of ways to capture the analytics of how well your track's doing. If you want to start using DistroKid to release your music, make sure you use the link in the description below, as you'll get a 7% discount. Now, without further ado, let's jump back into the video. I'm thinking about releasing a noise pack, maybe for the Patreon or for free, which is just simply noise, just a bunch of different risers, maybe with some percussion in there, because I know some of you hate making risers or you're unsure of how to make them. And I, for one, I love creating them. But here's a couple here that I just made from splice samples with some basic EQ in. And we have some noise in the beginning of the track as well from some blank vinyl. But now probably the bit you've been waiting for, we've got our drums here. So I realized when I kind of messed up that first beat, and I've actually got a bunch of drum kits and patterns that I made for a previous video, and you guys can check that out in the sidebar, in the caption. And I think the title of that video is like 5 UKG beats that you need to make use of, or words to that effect. So I took two of the hi-hat patterns that I liked. I took one from the Minimalist kit. If you're part of my Patreon, you can download all of those UKG templates. I just kind of changed the sound a little bit and the pattern. And then one from the Tam Tam Man, which was a kind of tambourine heavy kit, but I changed the sounds in this one. And I kept this more in the left pan. This one's a little bit more quantized, but it still has that unquantized shuffle pattern. With the tambourine kind of shuffle pattern, I keep it really quiet in the intro. You can see I've still got that phaser there, which just creates a bit of movement to the kit. And I've used the Ozone 8 imager to make it nice and wide to stand out with the top pattern. This one has more of a house offbeat, but I kept it really subtle. It's supposed to be a chilled beat. So I wanted to make sure that these open hi-hats weren't physical open hi-hats from an acoustic kit. They were more just like noise. So dynamics were really important here. I put that in a group for the simple reason of side chaining them just subtly to the kick and then a little bit heavier to the snare. In this section here, where the snare becomes double time, I made sure to grab all of these dynamics with the busy hi-hat and bring them all down apart from the shuffle pattern at the top. And again, that just takes some attention away from all of the hi-hat madness. There's nothing too special going on with the kick. It's just a kick sample that's inside a drum rack, so I can control the MIDI notes there. And then I've just EQ'd that kick drum. With the snare, however, I really like the sound. It's just a really tight rim shot sound, which I've applied some Valhalla reverb to. And I make sure that when it comes in double time, we actually turn that Valhalla down. So some people don't know that you can do this, but you can apply effects to just one instrument inside your drum rack. So like the noise, for instance, you can see that it's just the sample here. There's nothing else there. But when I click the snare, we've got the Valhalla plate reverb, and we've got a little bit of EQ there. So feel free to just kind of apply some effects to maybe one sample. And you can also automate those effects as well. So when we get to this double time section, I actually take the Valhalla plate from 4 to 3, which just takes the percentage down by like maybe 2 clicks, just so it's not as reverberous over the other sounds. Then we just have an offbeat snare, which is completely dry and a little bit quieter. And then I've made these kind of glitchy fills, which sit really nicely once you've got the whole beat there. And then apart from that, I just made sure that the track evolves and builds nicely. So there we have it, guys. What did you think of today's video? Was it chilled enough? Do you think I missed anything? What techniques from this video are you gonna use in your own production? This video was made as a result of the poll that you guys took. If you'd like to have your say in future episodes, do make sure that you comment down below. If you've learned something new or just enjoyed the content of this video, especially if you've been here before, do make sure you hit that subscribe button and that bell icon. You have no idea how much it helps out the channel. And currently, only 20% of the people that regularly watch my videos are subscribed. So do make sure you've hit that button. As always, anything that I've mentioned in this episode or previous can be found in the description below, like the strum rack from my Patreon that I've now made free, my Patreon content, the Discord, DistroKid, our sponsor, and where you can find my music. It's all down there. Check it out. For now, guys, I thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.